Hi, I'm Caitlin E, and welcome to the Lit Review. Today we're gonna do the mid-year freakout tag. It's my very first, because this is my very first year on BookTube, and I've seen this for years in the community, and I'm hyped to be able to participate in it. But first, some housekeeping. So if you've been watching my videos this June, I've been doing really small segments on allyship and what you can do today to work on being a better ally. And again, as a disclaimer, these little tips and tricks are not going to turn you into an ally overnight. It's long-term work that you're doing in your heart so that you can pass that on to your community. So these are just like really tiny steps. Please keep growing and doing the work on your own. It'll be really rewarding for both you and the people you get to engage with on a day-to-day basis. So for today's tip is to support businesses. And maybe that seems like a big duh thing, like support your local businesses, particularly support small businesses, and support businesses of people of color, support businesses that are in the LGBTQIA plus space. Like, do that. Please and thank you. Think about like the things that you already love, right? For a lot of us, that's books. I'll leave some links to some bookstores down below that you can support as instead of, buying from Amazon or things like that. So a really easy way to kind of just shift your money and make sure that those businesses continue to thrive and serve their communities. Another thing, I buy a lot of candles. You like never see that on this channel because like I'm surrounded by books. I'm not gonna like light up a candle where it could do damage. But I buy a frick ton of candles. So I'm gonna link one of my new favorite candle companies below. They're based out of Baltimore and it smells so good. The one that I got is sea salt and orchid, and it makes me very happy. So that's something you can do. I mean, you're already buying cool stuff anyway. You might as well buy from a diverse array of businesses. So support your small businesses wherever you can and make that difference for yourself and your community. And now, on to the freaking out. The mid-year freakout tag has been going around for quite some time, and it's really just about you recapping what you've done so far this year. The original creators, I believe, are Cami? I will link their content below, and as well as Ellie from Earl Grey Books. They created this way back in the day in a blog, and it has since taken over YouTube and is a lot of people's favorite content. So I will link both of their videos below. Should they still be making videos? I know Ellie is. I'm really looking forward to this. There are 14 questions. Let's get into them. I have, for transparency, my Goodreads goal this year was to read 60 books. I'm definitely going to eclipse that. Thank you, quarantine. And so I've read 43 books. I have not included my handful of DNFs into that list. So, I'm only going to be talking to you today about books that I have fully read. So the first one, the best book you've read so far in 2020. This is actually tricky because I've had a lot of books that I love, but I think the real answer is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I'm sorry, but I'm not at all sorry. I am very basic, and I love this. It is my favorite. That is my answer. I'm also not going to overly describe that book because it's everywhere, but it is Sarah J. Maas's fully adult fantasy, and it's great. It makes me very happy. It's maybe not the best book in terms of literary quality, but I love it. So that's my best book so far. It is the thing that has just made my heart go pitter-patter. So don't judge me too harshly, but it's my best book. I'm looking forward to seeing where we go with Bryson Hunt in the next one. So number 2. What's the best sequel you've read so far in 2020? I was looking through my Goodreads list of what I've actually read so far, and a lot of them have either been first books in a series or standalones. So this was actually kind of a struggle for me, but then when I found the book, I was like, oh, of course, that's my best sequel so far. And that is The Iron Codex by David Mack. I've talked a lot about this book on my channel, so I'm not going to overly belabor the point, but it is the second book in the Dark Arts. Yes. I almost said Dark Artifices, but I think that's a different series altogether. Dark Arts novel. And it is basically just magic and villainy and demons and angels in World War, or post-World War II setting. The first book starts in World War II. This one is more like Cold War era. Very good. very fun, a little weird. I like it. All right. So question 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet but want to. There are a lot of them. But again, I'm going to pull from what I own. Some of them, I have more than one. I'm really bad at making decisions. If you haven't already picked that up, I'm sorry. But I'm going to try to just dig deep and find an answer. I think the right answer for me, though, is Mad, Bad, and Dangerous to Know by Samir Ahmed. So I've been hyped for this book for quite a bit, and I finally have it in my hands thanks to Book Riot. They did a giveaway on their Instagram, and I won the giveaway on their Instagram, so thank you. And I am so excited because it has one of my favorite things in books, which is a dual timeline, where we have a young teenager who's in Paris, who's really struggling with her identity and, her family and a lot of pressures of being 17. We're following a young woman in the 18th century who's about the same age as our other protagonist, who is wedded to a pasha and is in his harem and is very uncomfortable and unhappy, but she starts to engage with and have impact on a lot of other different historical figures' lives. So these two characters' lives start to diverge in ways that I think will be very interesting. And of course, the title is a reference to Lord Byron, Mad, Bad, and Dangerous to Know. And Lord Byron is one of the people that one of our main characters interacts with pretty heavily in real life. So I am really into this book. The cover's really gorgeous. It is probably my most anticipated current release that I have in my possession. So hoping to get to this maybe in July, if Litland is kind. The 4th question is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? This one's actually really hard for me because I typically don't pay too close attention to long scale releases. I usually am only maybe a month up to date. Because I just would get really overwhelmed by my choices if I paid too close of attention. So I actually had to do some digging for this one. I have a couple. There's one called The Dark Tide by Alicia Jasinska, described as The Wicked Deep meets A Curse So Dark and Lonely. So I'm a little nervous, but I also am really intrigued by it. And there are witch queens, there's sacrifices, there's LGBT romance. I'm really intrigued. I don't know too much about it, and I try not to know too much about this kind of stuff, but I'd like to maybe check that book out in the future. Number 5 is Biggest Disappointment, and I could probably choose one of my DNFs, like Katie Roberts' Desperate Measures for me in terms of Biggest Disappointment. But I also want to call out one of the books I actually read all the way through. If you've been here for a while, this is going to come as no surprise to you, but Shay Earnshaw's Winterwood is one of my most disappointing books for 2020. I just went into this book wanting to love it, wanting to be really captivated by Earnshaw's writing because I've heard so many good things, and I just felt like it was really predictable and transparent, and the atmosphere wasn't enough to convince me that it was good. I'm definitely I finished it, I didn't DNF it, but I'm definitely getting rid of this book. Number 6 is Your Biggest Surprise. And I think this book is a big surprise for me because I had a lot of fear built up in my readership leading up to the book. I was just so afraid of it. And that is Spark Joy by Marie Kondo. It is the illustrated guide to her life-changing magic of tidying up. And I was so afraid that this was going to be about judgment. Because I often, tell me if you think differently, but I often think a lot of self-help books have an undercurrent of judgment to them, and it really makes me defensive. And so I was worried that that's what this was going to be. And this surprised me by how much care and compassion and kindness was just emanating out of this book. And I felt really seen, and I felt empowered to change my messiness, my tidying up skills. So this was such a pleasant surprise for me. Number 7 is your favorite new author of 2020. This one, oh man, I haven't talked enough about this book on my channel because I only started the lit review in March, but my probably new favorite author for the year thus far has been Hafsa Faisal, who wrote We Hunt the Flame. This was an Owl Crate book that I just I read in January, and I fell in love with this. Her second book in this trilogy was supposed to come out later this year, and I was kind of devastated when it got pushed back because the writing is so good. It is so compelling. The covers are always gorgeous. The cover art for the second book is just mwah, beautiful. I really love the Middle Eastern inspired fantasy, and I think Hafsa Faisal is Sri Lankan, so if I'm misattributing that, then that's on me. But really love her writing style. Like, the depth of her characters and her world building is really top notch. So I am going to be watching her for a very long time, and she has my loyalty. I would love to see what she does next, even above and beyond to this lovely series. Number 8, newest fictional crush. I think it'd be really easy for me to double down on House of Earth and Blood and say Hunt Athalar, but I'm going to shake it up. I'm going to prove that I have read something else besides Sarah J. Maas this year. And I'm actually going to say Hunter Davenport from Elle Kennedy's The Play. Hunter is a character that has been around in this series, which is, he's around, I think, in the Off-Campus series, and then this is the Briar U series, so they're both connected. And Hunter has gone through quite the journey as a side character, and he finally got his own book in The Play. And I just went through a whole range of emotions with him where I was like intrigued, then annoyed, and then now that he has his own book, I just really fell for him. He's such a sweetie. And yeah, if you haven't checked out, I'm an Elle Kennedy stan, so if you haven't checked out any of her Off-Campus or Briar U or her books with Serena Bowen, like, get on it. They're lovely. That's my aggressive pitch for the day. Number 9 is your newest favorite character in 2020. And this is maybe gonna come as a shock to some of you, but I'm gonna say, because I haven't mentioned it on my channel, I'm gonna say Lyra from The Golden Compass. I had just read that book for the first time, I think in like February. So for some of you, that's a long-term childhood favorite. This is my first time experiencing it, and I still loved it as an adult. So Lyra's my newest favorite character. Number 10, name a book that made you cry. So a lot of books have made me cry. I am not super easy to make cry, but I am not afraid to cry at books. So House of Earth and Blood made me cry a lot, probably the most. But I also want to call out Dear Mrs. Bird by A.J. Pierce as a book that has made me cry. Mostly happy tears, but still very impactful. There's a specific scene that just wrecked me. Please read it. Number 11 is a book that made me happy. Alright, for this one, I've been trying to avoid this for the most part, even though I've been name dropping it everywhere. A book that made me happy was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. Like, I'm still riding the high off of reading that book. Like, I just really loved it. It made me very happy to be a reader. Like, a lot of the books I've been reading maybe have happy endings or happy things happening to them, and I was happy for the moment, but when I think of the book that has, like, long-term engaged my brain and my endorphins, it's House of Earth and Blood. Number 12, what's the most beautiful book you've bought or been gifted this year? So far, I think the most beautiful book I have bought or received is The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. And this is the Owl Crate exclusive edition, and it is just gorgeous. It's one of the most beautiful covers Owl Crate's ever done, in my opinion. It also has really the silver gilt edges that I cannot resist. I just love shiny things. I'm a magpie. It's just who I am. But like, it's so detailed and beautiful, and I haven't gotten to read this book yet, but it's back here on my priority shelf. So I'm hoping to get to it sooner rather than later, but it is definitely the most beautiful book I've brought into my life this year. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? So I don't have anything that's going to expire 2020. I do have a handful of books left from my These Books Will Self-Destruct in 12 Months, but I published that in March or April, I think. So I have more than till the end of 2020 to read those, but I am going to try to get through them. So just to like call out some of those, I won't list the whole one because there's a whole other video for that. I'll link it if you're interested. But some ones that I'm really trying to get through right now. I would love to be able to read Enchanté by Guy de Trellis by the end of the year. I also have Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden on there because I've just been like avoiding it for a really long time, and I don't necessarily expect for it to be a highly impactful read, but I it's on my shelves. I gotta read the dang thing and form my own opinion. But on the positive side, it's not in that video, but I would also really like to finish reading City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert by the end of the year. I had it out from the library, got like a chunk of the way through it, and then had to return it, so I would very much like to read that before the end of the year. And yeah, that'll be my answer for this question. 14, who is your favorite community member? I have a lot of favorite people on BookTube. I think the person that stands out though is Kaylani from Kaylani Simply Me. Like, we started our BookTube journeys at a very similar time. And so we found each other kind of early on in that and had just like started commenting on each other's videos and like really quickly became friends. Like, I would, even though I have not met her IRL, like, she is my friend. And that has been such a gift to have her in this community and to like watch her channel grow. And I know she supported my channel's growth, and I just like, she inspires me all the time, and she's definitely my favorite community member. So shout out to Kaylani. I will link her channel down below. You should absolutely go check her out. I try not to overly hype her. I've mentioned her in several videos so far, but she is just one of the coolest people and I really treasure her. So yeah, she's my favorite community member. Okay, so that is my mid-year freakout tag for 2020. Not bad for my first time. I'm really enjoying it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Are any of these books ones that you've read this year or are hoping to read this year? Because I would love to know that. Or if you think that I just need to read something with the rest of my 2020, you go ahead and let me know. Thank you for spending time with me. I hope you have a fantastic reading day. Like and subscribe if you would like to see more from me or this channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!